Good evening. I'm mildly less sleepy tonight, mostly because I gave myself a reasonable cutoff instead of I can't stay up any more time to get in bed. And that's because I just finished Breath of Fire 3. And I really liked it. I did. It took a few tries at the final boss to get it right, and I will admit that at that point I was using save states to skip massive amounts of dialogue that I would have had to re-sit through. Like, literally, that's it. That's all, and I get that that's like, I guess, a punishment buffer, but we're talking like, even without reading it, taking maybe like 10 or 15 minutes to get through all this dialogue. And, no. No. just no. The last dungeon, as it were, was probably, I imagine it's about as long as 2's would have taken me had I done it legit. But it was less tedious because A, the encounter rate was down, and B, the way it sort of panned out seemed more like I could tell I was making progress more often, because it was like, go through an area, dead end into something you need to move forward, go back to your little safe area that you found sort of in the center of this area, rinse, repeat until you hit a second safe zone, and then you're going in the right direction. And right at the end, without too much spoilers, there was something of a boss rush, kind of. There were some twists on it. I won't spoil what they are, in case anyone ever plans to play through these games like I am. If you are, hit me up and I'll tell you the best way to play 2, because the official translation is garbage. But anyway, that area was really fun. The fights were actually fun more than frustrating. Even when I was kind of in a corner here and there, because I was playing around. From everything I've read, and honestly, if if 4 and 5, which I've sort of decided I'm going to play. I already started playing 4. When by that I mean I got it up and running, and I'm content with how it looks. And that's, and I cut it off like the literal first chance I had to save. If this dragon system, it seems like this is where the dragon system peaks. And so far I'm inclined to agree with that. But at the same time, it doesn't seem like it's going to hit the lows of 2, where it just felt like an ability that you only get to use on bosses, and even then, like, you better have full MP or it's just gonna suck. And so what's the point? It just felt like this is supposed to be a central mechanic, and it's literally useless in most situations. Where once I had some fun forms put together, or backing up a little bit, in 1, like, this was somewhere between it had everything good going on for one and then some, in that you didn't just use a single attack like you did in 2. You did stay in the form. It didn't just use all of your AP, regardless, and then just like sort of increase in efficiency depending on how much you have. Like it did in 2, it was you actually assume a dragon form. And, but like in the first one, you just kind of unlocked a bunch of standard forms as you went along. Whereas in this one, you unlock, like, they're called genes, and you mix and match them for different elemental combinations and eventually different transformations in general. There's like a good handful of unique ones. I didn't see anywhere near all of them. I had my favorites, and like just randomly, because I figured why not, in one of these boss rush fights, I threw together some combination that I hadn't read about or anything. I'm just like, screw it, let's see what this does. And it ended up being a unique dragon, and it was really cool. So, like, in the final dungeon, I was, despite it being a bit tedious, considering the fact that I was I was near enough to restoration points that I didn't feel like I had to save every drop of my main character's MP. I could play around with that stuff more, and when it came to doing the fights and stuff, I was kind of having more fun in the final dungeon than I'd had throughout the entire game. So that's something. Another thing I want to point out that I haven't talked about, the character designers, and more specifically, honestly, the enemy designers of this series are really great. I won't spoil too much, in that you're not really going to be able to get a good mental image of this, because I'm not going to describe what the final boss looks like, except that it does have somewhat of a human face. And at one point during this boss fight, this is on like my second or third attempt, so despite it doing other things I won't describe, just because they're honestly, like, if you're not going to play this game, look up someone doing the final boss, and like, see if you can find someone like showcasing all of the final boss's moves, because some of them are fantastic in the most body horror ways. So let's see, how am I gonna do this, because I ain't got my glasses near me. I'm gonna reach behind me and grab one of my wrist guards, and I'm gonna stand it up like at my neck. And once it's like, I'm gonna talk about my favorite move the boss does. Just one though, and that'll still leave my other favorite that the boss uses more consistently, to surprise you if you ever look this up. So like, once I lay my wrist guard there, I'm gonna start talking about that. So mute if you don't want to hear spoilers for Breath of Fire 3's final boss, or you don't want to hear me describe mild body horror. Let's see what to compare it to. I don't know, but anyway, if you're just squeamish about that, like if you're really squeamish about that, maybe you don't wanna, but you'll probably be fine. As surprised as I was, it immediately went, like, it was immediately like, I hate that in the best possible way. That was fantastic, that kind of thing. Anyway, here we go. There it is. That's my wrist guard. You should mute now. Okay, hopefully they've muted. So at one point, again, I'm not going to go into too much description on what the final boss looks like, but it does have a humanoid face in, like, you know, face and torso sort of thing. And at one point, it used a move called Holocaust. And I was like, alright, already I am afraid of this move. But then what it did is, from the hairline down to the collarbone, just kind of melted away to reveal this sort of gaping hole that it shot laser beams out of. And then it reassembled back into a face. And I was like, that was amazing. So, big kudos to the people that designed that. Like, that was amazing. Anyway. Away with you. So, yeah. I will repeat the last thing I said, which is not spoilers. Major kudos to the designers of, honestly, a lot of the enemy designs in these games. They've been pretty great, and it's definitely one of the things I'll walk away being most impressed with. There are other little things that I remembered while I was playing that I'm forgetting now, that I really appreciated about it, and kind of felt bad not mentioning, as much as I was kind of complaining about Breath of Fire, specifically the third one last night. I can't remember what they are now. I do know one thing. See that? This is something I've been meaning to talk about for 3 days now. I moved the switch to my lamp. It's there now instead of awkwardly in that direction. So I can just roll over when I'm done, reach over and click it. And more importantly, if I want to turn it on before I get in bed, because it's like dark early or whatever, I don't have to crawl across my bed to reach the switch anymore. Why didn't I move it earlier, you said? I'm a lazy piece of garbage. My room has been arranged like this for over a year, and I never took the time because I'm garbage. Okay? Cool. I'm glad we've established that. But yeah, that's kind of all that went on today. Just another lazy one. And I'm fine with that. I was just considering getting out in the yards, but all the pine cones had shriveled up, and it's always so much harder to deal with them when they're like that, because you can't find them, and then you think you're done, and you go out the next day, and they've unshriveled, and you missed like half of them, because spring weeds are coming in. So just the next day they're nice and open, I'll get started. The other thing is, right now, when they shrivel up like this and you can't really tell where they are, the yards don't really look that bad. So, like, even though I know yesterday I could see a whole bunch of crap out just even my window that bothered me enough to want to go deal with it, today it just didn't look that bad, and I know it's just because they were shriveled up and did not catch. And then when they're like that, they just don't catch your eye the same way. I had this bizarre dream last night, and we were going immediately into left field, but it's like kept coming back to me in this weird way, that just more how bizarre the concept was than anything. But it was like, it was definitely Persona 5 related, It was like some weird spin-off game where they were investigating God something. I can't even remember. I just remember like the most of the dream was centered around what was supposed to be the climax of the game, and like the main character was two people or something, or like either that or like I don't know. It was weird, but it devolved into the Phantom Thieves, who for some reason, like, either, even though this was supposed to have something to do with the metaverse, they didn't have access to their personas, and they were basically playing real life Luigi's Mansion in a church I used to attend. Yeah, that was a weird one. I have a lot of weird dreams based around this church. Not that I have any negative memories. If anything, I have a lot of positive memories of me, like, just playing around and exploring it, because it was really big, honestly. It was laid out in a weird way. Not weird necessarily, but like different from, at the very least, very different from the one I grew up in. It's a lot bigger from the one I grew up in. And I just, like, it's got such a memorable layout to me that I just, like, a lot of times when I have weird dreams that want to take place in a strange space, it ends up in that church for some reason. And I really do think it is because, like, we started going there like when I was 11 or 12 or whatever. And early on, my dad started helping a lot with some of the extra stuff. Like, he'd build these, like, elaborate cardboard sets for vacation Bible school or whatever. And a lot of times, me and my sister, or even just me some of the times, would just kind of just have free range of this entire building to explore. And, like, downstairs was really spread out, but then there was like an upstairs, and they had dozens of individual rooms. And the idea was that they'd all have, like, you know, they were all like different spaces for different age levels of stuff like that or whatever. Just, you know, rooms, so they'll always have a room for things. A lot of them weren't used, I don't think, or at the very least were not fully utilized, but still, there was just so much to explore in this building, and I think that's why it stuck with me. But, like, in the dream, I added an attic to it, because of course I did. And yeah, I was just doing Luigi's Mansion. Like, we'd finished the mission, but, like, the metaverse wasn't going away like it was supposed to, and I'm like, it's obviously because we haven't caught all of the ghosts. So let's go do that. So that happened. It's like just very unique how stupidly mashed up they were. I also vividly remember when I went in the attic, it was like rows upon rows of retro games for some reason. Like SNES and N64 games. And then I got past that to some very elaborate, like, what looks like where you'd keep little kids, like, you know, toddlers and 5-year-olds or whatever, you know, that weird age between, I can run now and I should be attending preschool. So, like, daycare level kids that are, you know, but the ones that get into all kinds of trouble. And like, that's where a lot of the ghosts were. And somebody was with me who had nothing to do with anything going on. And I was like, well, gotta deal with that now. It was just so bizarre. It was in all of the best possible ways. Also, in classic spin-off fashion, which is what this was in my brain, there was an OC, and their persona was just a car. That was it. It was just a car. It wasn't like a car based on some thing. Like, admittedly, there is a persona that's kind of just a motorcycle in 5. But at the very least, it has a face, and, mild spoilers, a Transformers-esque evolved version if you max out your social link with that person. But no, this was just like a sedan. It wasn't even a cool car, if I remember right. It was just like a really boring, normal-looking car. It's just like, wow, you have no imagination at all, do you? Or something like that. It was bizarre. Anyway, we're going on 20 minutes, and my arm is falling asleep. So I'm gonna go ahead and call this. I will catch you all tomorrow.